Have you been to Kalamazoo lately? I've driven past it a couple of times on I-94 on my way up to Ann Arbor from Chicago when I drove a truck many years back. I did stop on the outskirts of Kalamazoo a couple of times to drop off a trailer or pick one up depending on the circumstances. Mostly though, when I saw the exit signs for Kalamazoo, I would know how long it would be to get to the next truck stop, where I would get a meal or a cup of coffee or whatever. I want to thank you for joining me today in Facing Reality for Social Justice as we look at Carl Sandburg's poem, Kalamazoo, and get a sense of the importance of the town to Sandburg, and at least to me, for an understanding of how the city can be an indication of our country's reaction to what's happening in Gaza. Kalamazoo isn't too different from other towns of its size, about 150,000 people or so, but it does have a couple of points of interest in our story today, one of which Sandburg refers to and one that he doesn't. It turns out Kalamazoo was a very active center of the Underground Railroad before the Civil War. Between 1840 and 1860, between 1,000 and 1,500 slaves stopped in the city on their way to Detroit and ultimately to Canada. A time or two, slave catchers found slaves there and tried to return them to their owners in the South, but they were stopped by mobs of residents, as one newspaper called them, who prevented their return. This is the point of interest and not mentioned in Sandburg's poem. One point that is referred to in the poem is the Gibson Guitar Company that built the Gibson guitars in Kalamazoo until the 1980s when it moved to Tennessee. An interesting side note, the Gibson factory was turned into a munitions factory during World War II and hired mostly women for the factory. But not only did they build munitions, they also secretly continued to build Gibson guitars. The Kalamazoo Girls, as they were called, built up to 25,000 guitars during the war, until they were replaced by the men returning from the military. Anyway, as we'll see, Sandburg isn't particularly nice to Kalamazoo in his poem, but let's listen to what he has to say. The sins of Kalamazoo are neither scarlet nor crimson. The sins of Kalamazoo are convict gray and the dishwater drab. The people who sin the sins of Kalamazoo are neither scarlet nor crimson. They run to drabs and grays, and some of them sing they shall be washed whiter than snow, and some we should worry. Yes, Kalamazoo is a spot on the map, and the passenger trains stop there, and the factory smokestacks smoke, and the grocery stores are open Saturday night. And the streets are free for citizens who vote and the inhabitants counted in the census. Saturday night is the big night. Listen with your ears on a Saturday night in Kalamazoo and say to yourself, I hear America. I hear... What do I hear? Main Street there runs through the middle of town, and there is a dirty post office, and a dirty city hall, and a dirty railroad station. And the United States flag cries the stars and stripes to the four winds on Lincoln's birthday and the 4th of July. Kalamazoo kisses a hand to something far off. Kalamazoo calls to a long horizon, to a shivering silver angel, to a creeping mystic. What is it? We're here because we're here is the song of Kalamazoo. We don't know where we're going, but we're on our way, are the words. There are hound dogs of bronze on the public square, hound dogs looking far beyond the public square. Sweethearts there in Kalamazoo go to the general delivery window of the post office and speak their names and ask for letters, and ask again, Are you sure there is nothing for me? I wish you'd look again. There must be a letter for me. And sweethearts go to the city hall and tell their names and say, we want a license. And they go to an installment house and buy a bread on time and a clock. And the children grow up asking each other, what can we do to kill time? They grow up and go to the railroad station and buy tickets for Texas, Pennsylvania, Alaska. Kalamazoo is all right, they say, but I want to see the world. And when they have looked the world over, they come back saying it's all like Kalamazoo. The trains come in from the east and hoots for the crossings, and buzz away to the peach country in Chicago to the west, or they come from the west to shoot on the Battle Creek breakfast bazaars and the speed bug heavens of Detroit. I hear America, I hear. What do I hear? Said a loafer, lagging along on the sidewalks of Kalamazoo, lagging along and asking questions, reading signs. Oh yes, there is a town named Kalamazoo, a spot on the map where the trains hesitate. I saw the sign of a 5 and 10 cent store there, and the Standard Oil Company, and the International Harvester, and a graveyard, and a ball grounds, and a short order counter where a man can get a stack of wheats, and a pool hall where a rounder leered confidential like, and said, looking for a quiet game? The loafer lagged along and asked, do you make guitars here? Do you make boxes the singing woodwinds ask to sleep in? Do you rig up strings the sleeping woodwinds sift over and sing low? The answer? We manufacture musical instruments here. Here I saw churches with steeples like hatpins, undertaking rooms with sample coffins in the show window, and signs everywhere, satisfaction is guaranteed. Shooting galleries where men kill imitation pigeons, and there were doctors for the sick, and lawyers for people waiting in jail, and a dog catcher, and a superintendent of streets, and telephones, waterworks, trolley cars, and newspapers with a splatter of telegrams from sister cities of Kalamazoo the round world over. And the loafer, lagging along, said, Kalamazoo, you ain't in a class by yourself. I've seen you before in a lot of places. If you are nuts, America is nuts. And lagging along, he said bitterly, before I came to Kalamazoo, I was silent. Now I am Gabby, God help me, I am Gabby. Kalamazoo, both of us will do a fadeaway. I will be carried out feet first, and time and the rain will chew you to dust, and the winds blow you away. And an old mother will lay a green moss cover on my bones, and a green moss cover on the stones of your post office and city hall. Best of all, I have loved your kiddies playing Run Sheep Run and cutting their initials on the ball ground fence. They knew every time I fooled them who was fooled and how. Best of all, I have loved the red gold smoke of your sunsets. I have loved the moon with a ring around it, floating over your public square. I have loved the white dawn frost of early winter silver and purple over your railroad tracks and lumber yards. The wishing heart of you I loved, Kalamazoo. I sang by low to your dreams. I sang by low to your hopes and songs. I wish to God there were hound dogs of bronze on your public square, hound dogs with bronze paws, looking to a long horizon, with a shivering silver angel, creeping, mystic, what is it? The poem was written by Sandburg around 1922. It doesn't make Kalamazoo particularly look good, just convict, gray, and dishwasher drab. For me, however, the most important line of the poem is, if you're nuts, America is nuts. But not convict gray nuts. Rather, Kalamazoo has joined a worldwide movement opposing the Israeli killings in Gaza. Demonstrations have been held at Western Michigan University, Kalamazoo College, and Kalamazoo Valley Community College, and in the community at large. It seems the anti-war movement has hit the U.S. heartland, and to some extent, the mainstream. The schools in Kalamazoo aren't Harvard or Columbia or Berkeley, which have a reputation for activism, at least in the press. These are students and communities that are an indication of the widespread and deep dislike of Israel's actions, and they often have no hesitation in calling it genocide. Replace the word Kalamazoo with Peoria, or Decatur, or Springfield, and you'll find similar stories in similar communities. This doesn't mean that the majority of these communities have agreed with the protests, but it does mean that these discussions have rock-solid focus throughout the country. And this isn't the first time that this has happened. I remember the anti-war movement in the 1960s, when a group like SDS, Students for a Democratic Society, had a relatively small demonstration in Washington, D.C. in 1965, 25,000 people, which quickly grew to hundreds of thousands, marching with national mobilization committees. The country's civil rights movement gave confidence to the anti-war students that things could be fought and even changed. The reintroduction of the military draft also brought the issue home for many people. In the 1980s, many churches around the country had committees set up to oppose the U.S. support for the atrocious killings of human rights advocates, union members, and indigenous communities in Central America. We also saw committees being formed to oppose the apartheid in South Africa, when the U.S. government called people like Nelson Mandela and other freedom fighters terrorists. Different from the anti-war days of the 1960s, we started to see rank-and-file union committees being set up as well on these issues. Today's movement around Gaza is growing in organization and sophistication on a daily basis. People are learning from the lessons of the 2020 Black Lives Matter demonstrations, from the Me Too exposés of corporate and government misdeeds, and from a revived union movement where California university employees are even striking around issues brought up by the U.S. catastrophic actions on Gaza. Sandburg's Kalamazoo still exists, but this city and others around the country are again being swept up in a whirlwind of discussion and thought and actions that draw people into movements for justice. Anyway, let's close our show with the 1911 railroad song, The Railroad Rag, and let's see where this train takes us.
Did you ever hear about the railroad rag? Toot, 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 it's a joyful jag. See that train a-going round the curve. I feel that engine swerve. Engineers are humming a peculiar strain. In your heart you get a pain. All the people on the road have caught that drag. Everybody's humming that railroad rag. Oh, oh, that railroad rag. Oh, oh, that railroad rag. It's so entrancing a horn. It makes you fall asleep in Fargo and you wake up in Chicago. Hear that engine hum. That train sure going some. Here comes that choo, 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 choo. That's the railroad rag. Out in San Francisco we met Dr. Cook, talking on the phone from an old cook. Engineer was angry, said his day is done. I'll go get that coal who'll come. Someone gave the signal, we were off like a shot. Gee, but everyone was hot. In just 30 seconds we were halfway there. Then we stopped to get directions from a polar bear. Oh, oh, that railroad rag. Oh, oh, that railroad rag. It's so entrancing on. It makes you fall into a doze and someone walks up with your clothes. Oh, hear that engine hum. That train sure going some. Here comes that choo, 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 choo. That's the railroad rag. Oh, that's the railroad rag. Oh, that's railroad rag. It's so entrancing on. It makes you feel so awful funny that you throw away your money. Hear that engine hum. That train sure going some. Here comes that choo, 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 choo. That's the railroad rag.
That was Railroad Rag by Walter Van Brunt on an old Victor record, and we downloaded it from the Internet Archive. I pulled together the other music on the show, and I'm Wayne Heimbach.